I am Mike Fife, and this is a role-play mediation prepared for the Woodbury Institute tape assessment. Today is June 22nd. Hi, Alice and Beth. Thank you for coming to my office today for this mediation. As we've gone over a little bit, I have the agreement to mediate here with me, just to go over what it talks about. This is a confidential meeting, so what we talk about is going to stay in this room. The conversation is going to be between the two of you, hopefully to figure out kind of some resolution to the problems you've been having. What I was told by you both at intake is that you've met with your attorneys and they suggested this process. So how this process works is we'll have a conversation about what's going on, and you two will be in charge of kind of telling me what's happening and seeing where you can move, and I'll just manage the process and try to help you along in that process towards resolution. So if you could both please read the agreements to mediate and sign at the bottom whenever you're. Thank you. So we've got about a half hour today. That usually is not enough time to come to a complete resolution. So I'm not exactly sure where you'll be at the end of that half hour. I may give you some follow-up, and then you both said you were willing to return for some other sessions if that was needed. So I don't know a lot. Beth, you had originally contacted me, so I'm just hoping that to start you can each tell me a little about what's going on for you, and I'm going to ask that the other person doesn't interrupt for that time, and then we'll switch, and Alice, I'll have you tell me what's going on, and I'll ask Beth to just let you speak for that time.
Okay.
Thank you. Beth, would you like to start?
Sure. So, her German Shepherd's ripped up all of my rose bushes. It's one of my favorite things to do. I'm very proud of my rose bushes, and dog comes over and poops on my lawn. One of my friends stepped in it when they came over. It's really, the dogs, people think it's my dog, and it's not my dog because it's always at my house. And then it ripped up the rose bushes, and it just digs around in the yard and poops, and I heard that it bit a child, snapped at a child. It's out of control. It's $200 for the rose bushes. It's 4 of them, he ripped them up.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of damage.
Thank you. So your main concern is about the German Shepherd and kind of its behavior in the neighborhood, and
yeah, and at my house, yeah,
and especially in your lawn.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And Alice?
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't think that my dog is really a problem. You know, I keep track of him. I don't think that he's responsible for the rose bushes, but you know, it's not just my dogs that are the problem. I've avoided getting into anything with Beth. You know, I don't want to cause trouble, and seems like things have been at least cordial between us over the last few years since she moved in, but you know, we're here, and if we're gonna start making complaints, then I want to talk about her son, Ted, who is, you know, loud, and he's always got these friends over partying in the yard, and you know, I work overnight. I'm a baker, so there are times when I'm not even in bed until 4 o'clock in the morning, and then Ted's starting up his motorcycle at 7:30 in the morning, right outside my window, right outside my bedroom window. And you know, his behavior definitely gets in the way of my use of my property. I found a broken glass bottle broken on my driveway the other day. I suspect it has something to do with Ted and his friends who hang out there. So, you know, like I said, I didn't really want to I just wanted to just leave this alone, but we're here and I'm being accused of something, so I think it's time that Beth understands that she's not perfect either. So.
Okay, so you've got some concerns about kind of your living situation, just like she's got some concerns about her yard and the rose bushes. You're looking to kind of manage the noise and figure out how you can get some good rest.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. So what I've heard from both of you is kind of a desire to talk about kind of the relationship as neighbors that you have and what those boundaries are going to be. There's a dog, there's noise. How long have you guys lived next to each other? And is it next to each other? Sorry.
Right next to each other.
Just
Yeah, our
assumed.
driveways are like, the only thing separating us is a very low picket fence. And Beth moved in, I think, 3 years ago.
3 years ago, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's been pretty cordial, you said?
Yeah, but I mean, we're not buddies, we're not hanging out or anything, but we've never had problems.
Until the puppy came along about 6 months ago.
Okay.
Until the motorcycle came along about 8 months ago.
Okay, so things have kind of been getting a little rocky. At very least, once people are bringing in attorneys, maybe getting a little rocky is an understatement by me.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess I'm trying to figure out where to begin, because there's two very separate kind of things going on. I guess my first question is, how have you guys communicated in the past? It sounds like there hasn't been much communication. I'm sorry, I think my secretary will grab that phone.
I got it, Mike!
Thank you.
We haven't really had a lot of need to communicate with each
Okay.
other. That, you know, it's, like I said, I work overnight, she works during the days, I'm guessing. You know, we just live different lives, and she's got kids, I don't have kids. Like, it's, like I said, we're friendly, but it's, there's not been any real need for us to communicate with each other.
It's always been cordial. It's never been a problem.
Okay.
Yeah, and I don't, it just, until recently.
And has your son been living there for all 3 years?
Yes, he has.
He has?
Yep.
And
Yep.
how old is he now?
17.
17.
He
Okay.
got a motorcycle 8 months ago. He has this Honda motorcycle that he just loves. It's helped him through some rough times. So she complains about the motorcycle and the noise. I do know it's loud, but it's really important to him.
Okay.
So
My sleep is fairly important to me too. You know,
Yeah.
like I said, I'm not home a lot of nights until 4 o'clock in the morning, and to have the motorcycle starting up, I mean, it's literally like 4 feet from my bedroom window where he starts the motorcycle 3 hours after I've gone to bed.
So he's getting up at 7 to go to work or something, or go to school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And on the weekends, he has friends over. They come to our house.
Gotcha.
Yeah. He's had some issues, emotional difficulties. He had a cousin that was really close to him that passed away about a year ago.
Hmm.
And
I'm
then
sorry to hear that.
he became interested in motorcycles. So we got him one, and now that's kind of he's kind of put his passion into that.
Mm.
So he's really into it.
It's really easy to cope.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
Yeah, so I don't, I'm not sure what to do with that.
Yeah. And maybe that's when the noise has kind of increased too. You've got the friends coming over, and if
Exactly.
he's having some
Yeah.
trouble.
He's 17, he has a motorcycle. I mean, it's kind of cool, and his friends like it, and I'd rather have him at my house than at someone else's house, so I don't know.
Gives him an outlet, and you're able to keep track of him.
Exactly.
Which is
Exactly.
especially important
Especially in
when
this
somebody's
hard time.
having trouble.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You really want to be able to keep an eye on them.
Exactly. Yep.
Makes sense. Okay. does hearing any of that change the perspective for you at all, or, I mean,
Well, yeah, I mean,
it's
I had
obviously
no
you still need
idea
to wake
that
up.
there was like such severe issues going on. Yeah, no, I had no idea any of that was the case. All I saw was a 17-year-old boy with a loud motorcycle and a bunch of teenagers hanging out in the driveway next to my house.
Yeah,
I mean, I still feel like we need to do something about it.
course.
But yeah, do I have a little more compassion? Sure. Yeah.
yeah, but at the end of the day, you're getting home at 4, waking up at 7 is not pleasant.
He gets some sleep.
Yeah, yeah, and so you're sleeping from 4, hopefully till 10 or 11. Get a good 6-7 hours at least.
That's usually my goal, and
Okay.
yeah, so 7 in the morning is right in the middle of that. It makes it tough to get a sound night's sleep, and you know, the friends and hanging out in the driveway, like I like to have cookouts in my front yard sometimes on the weekends too, but I just feel like it's this competing scenario. You know, we're so close to one another that I often avoid having people over on the weekends because he's got all his buddies hanging out there, and I don't feel like I have any privacy in my own front yard with all these teenage boys hanging out in the driveway with the motorcycle. And
So you're really looking to get your own space and some privacy and.
yeah, I mean, the way our houses are oriented, it's like, yeah, the front yard is the place
Okay.
to hang out.
And it sounds like there's a small fence there as well.
Yeah, it's got a very low picket fence that divides the two of us.
Okay. And not to completely change the subject, but I also want to make sure that we're hearing both issues. So, you know, we've talked a little about the noise, but I also wanted to make sure we're not losing track of the rose bushes and the dog, and you know, kind of figuring out where you guys are going to go with that. Does your dog have a name, by the way? So
Rufus.
I don't need to call Rufus the dog.
Rufus.
Yeah, thank you. And so he's a puppy?
Yeah,
6
yeah,
months
he's
ago or so?
9 months old.
9 months old.
I got him when he was 3 months old, so yeah, I've had him for 6 months. He's a German Shepherd. He's, you know, I mean, yeah, he's still a puppy. He's young. He jumps and he's active and high energy and.
And just so I can picture it, is the fence all the way around your yard, or is it simply?
It just goes
In
straight
between.
back to the back end of the property between. It doesn't.
Okay.
It doesn't. Yeah.
It doesn't enclose your whole front yard or something like that?
No.
Okay. Okay. And so, I guess I heard you say that you didn't think that Rufus had kind of dug up the rose bushes earlier.
I don't know.
You're not sure?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I don't know.
Emily, was there a reason you thought it was Rufus? Is this like, did you see that, or?
Yeah, yeah, I just planted the rose bushes, and he's always in my yard anyway, and he's always digging holes in my yard. And I just planted the roses, they're on the other side of the house, the rose bushes. So my house, Alice's house, and then the rose bushes are on the other side of my house. They're away from Rufus's yard. So I planted them on the other side, and then they were ripped up. And he's constantly in my yard, and people, like I said, think he's my
It comes
dog.
around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He poops in my lawn. He dug up these rose bushes. I mean, these rose bushes are really important to me because it's my hobby, and they're expensive roses.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I'm angry.
Yeah, and it's not just that you've put some work in and you really like them, but there's a monetary value there.
Yeah,
it sounds like.
there is, and
Okay.
it's and I pick up his poop, and he's never on a leash, and he's always running around, and I pick up
There's
his
no
poop, and
leash law in town, and other people have dogs too. So
I keep asking her to keep him off my lawn, and I'll see what I can do. So this has been going on for 6 months now. So I feel like I've been patient with it.
And you're really looking for a way to
Keep him off my
keep
lawn.
Rufus
Yeah,
on kind of
contained.
on your property.
I have no intention of chaining him up because I feel like a chained dog is a dog that becomes vicious. And so, you know, there's no leash law in town, and he's young and he's a puppy, and he needs to be able to run off energy and get exercise. And like I said, you know, there's other dogs in town too, and mine just happens to be the one that lives next door. It doesn't make my dog the one that is causing all the trouble. There could be lots of other dogs that are pooping on your lawn and digging up your rose bushes.
So is the culture of kind of your, I'm assuming there's a full street here, but the culture, it sounds like, is that the dogs just kind of wander around, or?
Some are better than others.
Yeah, I mean,
There's no leash law, so they don't have to be leashed. So they kind of, you know, visit each other, and but I mean, I've heard that he snapped at a kid. I don't know his demeanor. I don't interact with him when he's on my lawn.
he's just high energy. He's not mean. He's a puppy. He's just high energy.
And your concern, it sounds like, with not having him on a leash is so that he will be friendly with folks, and you don't want him to be a kind of overly aggressive dog. And
I do not want him to become an aggressive dog. No.
Okay.
Yeah.
And have you heard anything about this incident with the kid, or?
I've heard a couple people say that somebody might have heard him or seen him bite at somebody, and nobody has ever come to me and said that was the case. So I'm not really inclined to believe that my dog bit somebody. I'm pretty sure if he bit somebody, that somebody would be knocking on my door.
Sure.
Well, they come to my house because they think the dog's mine.
Well, so did somebody come to your house and say that my dog bit them?
Well, that's what the rumor, yeah. That's
Okay,
the rumor.
that's a rumor.
I mean, I've never seen him bite anybody. But
If
I'm
my
saying
dog
that's
was
the rumor.
running around and playing and somebody thought it looked like somebody got bitten, then that's a rumor. If somebody actually got bit by a dog, then I think there would be an obvious
And
report of that, not just a rumor.
it sounds like you guys actually agree that this is a rumor. You know, we don't have a confirmation. I
Right.
don't hear that from Emily. I don't hear it from you. But the real issue I'm hearing from Emily is that somebody approached her with this rather than you, thinking that the dog was,
Yeah, they come to my
that
house.
thinking
and
that
complain
Rufus
about
was hers. Which is an awkward position for you, probably, because you're like, oh, no, that's
Yeah.
not my dog, it's the neighbor's.
It is awkward.
Okay, well, I mean, so send that person to my house. Like, it's
Yeah, I tell
pretty...
them the dog isn't. They tell me the dog frightens children, and he's always running around and pooping in their yard. I said, I know.
Then people
That's
should
not
come
my
and talk
dog.
to me about it. Nobody's come to talk to me about it. So
Well, you're not usually home when your schedule is third shift, so it's difficult for people to talk to you. And I've tried to talk to you about it before, and I'll see what I can do. So that brings us here now.
So, what I've heard kind of, and we've basically had two separate conversations. There was a conversation earlier about your son and the noise and what's been going on for your son.
Mhm.
And then there's a conversation about Rufus and kind of where he's going, and that the neighborhood is kind of coming to Beth with these complaints, and so that conversation I guess I'm wondering if the conversation, that second piece, is about two things. One is the dog and the rose bushes, and the other is kind of figuring out how to communicate about it. So if somebody comes to Emily, how can she send them over to you so they can actually find you? Because working third shift is tough.
Yeah.
I've worked nights in the past, and it's hard because sleeping's tough, and it's stressful, and it pays a little better sometimes, but you know, there are some sacrifices that come with that, and so that can be really, really tough. So I guess I'm hearing a conversation about how to communicate and a conversation about kind of these boundaries as neighbors.
yeah.
Yeah.
So what would be helpful for you guys to talk about here? I would think that the communication for me is something that I've seen as if you can get some rules around communication that can help a lot in smoothing out the other pieces, and allow for a better communication later, and then those conversations can go better and those pieces kind of smooth themselves out. Sometimes that works, sometimes not as much.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, we need to be able to communicate about the dog, we need to be able to communicate about the motorcycle, about broken bottles in the front lawn, rose bushes, whatever it is, we need to be able to figure out a way, like I said, our houses are not very far apart from each other. I don't plan on going anywhere. I doubt you plan on going anywhere, so, yeah, it'd probably be a good idea if we figured out how to talk to each other instead of ending up in court every time something happens.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Okay. So, in looking to talk about that, what would be best for you if somebody does come to Emily again saying, to Beth again, saying that something's going on with Rufus? What would work best for you?
Well, you know, I mean, I'm usually around and awake and been doing things at home in the afternoons. But, you know, my husband keeps more normal hours also. He doesn't work third shift, so he's there. You know, the puppy was my idea, and I guess that's, you know, that's why I'm here and he's not. Like, I wanted Rufus. Anyway, but he's around, and he's certainly capable of managing when I'm not there. So it doesn't, you don't have to only look for my car or whatever. My husband is there too, and I don't want Rufus running around the neighborhood. I don't want him biting kids. I don't want him making trouble, but I do want him to be able to run around and get out his puppy energy and just like be part of the neighborhood. You know, I want him to be, I want him to be socialized with the people in the neighborhood and the other dogs, and I don't want to chain him up and, you know, force him into a corner. So
I'm not asking him to be chained up, but I just think, I mean, it's a lot of poop. So when someone comes to my house and complains about him, I can send them to talk
please,
to.
yeah, I mean,
Send them over
absolutely.
to your house.
I don't want all these little conversations going on behind my back about rumors that my dog's biting people, and yeah, I want to be a good neighbor. I want to be a responsible dog owner, but I can't address the problem if I never hear about it directly. So yes, please send people my way and have them call me. Like, anybody can always leave a message on my cell phone, even if we're not around, and just let me know that something happened so I can address it. But I can't do anything about something I've never heard about.
And do you have each other's phone numbers?
Yeah.
Yeah, we do too.
And again, just for my reference, your husband's name is?
Joe.
Okay, so it sounds like that will help.
Yeah. But, you know, let's not forget about this piece of, you know, there's Ted, and I do,
Yeah.
like you said, it does shift something for me to understand that such a young kid has gone through some obviously difficult stuff, but we need to figure out how I can get some sleep and how we can deal with the teenagers in the driveway, and I mean, that can't keep going on.
Okay.
Well, I mean, you said that on the weekends you're hesitant to have people over. He just got a new job, so hopefully he'll be working some of the weekends. He wants to go to college and save up some money. But I don't know what his schedule will be. I mean, are you in your mind, do you want, like, what works? What do you want? Sundays? Saturdays? I mean, what are you thinking?
Well,
Or do you, I mean, you're in the mornings, I get that. I don't know what your schedule's like, so I really don't know.
so
how to-
I'm working third shift Tuesday through, well, so like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday nights.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean Sundays are kind of like our down day and
Okay.
a day that we would like to be able to have cookouts.
Okay.
And the mornings are the, that correspond with those days are the days when I really like to be able to keep my head on the pillow
Until what? Until 11?
11. And
Okay.
I don't know how that's going to work realistically for Ted if he wants to drive his motorcycle to school. I don't know.
I know. Yeah.
And so, and it sounded like what you were saying before is really when he's starting it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really loud.
Yeah.
Yes.
Loud. Yeah.
Okay.
It's really hard to get back to sleep after you've been like jarred out of bed by a noise like that. And like I said, my bedroom is right on that side of the house. There's only one bedroom in the house. I don't have an alternative to like move my bed to the other side of the house or anything. So he's literally starting up that motorcycle 4 feet from my head.
Right under your window. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I mean, I don't know a lot about motorcycles. I drive a Prius, so which is really quiet. So
Yeah.
I mean, could he push it into the road and then start it?
I honestly don't know enough about
Okay.
motorcycles either.
Maybe he could do that. I don't know. I mean, I could ask him.
Okay.
I mean, I haven't really talked to him about this because he's gone through a lot, and I didn't want to put this on his plate on top of school and work and his cousin dying. But maybe he has. I mean, he knows better than. He knows it's loud. That's kind of a cool factor to it. So, and he doesn't consider anybody else because he's 17. But he might have some ideas too of what to do, how to cut down on the noise. Because maybe he could push it to the street and then start it. I don't know. Yeah. Or maybe he could.
So, and as I said at the beginning, at the onset of this meeting, you're not going to figure out all the solutions to all the problems in a half hour. It's just unrealistic. So it may be that you can have a conversation with Ted, see what he can do. As you said, he's 17, so you
Yeah.
have dealt with a lot of 17-year-olds. You do need to kind of explain to them what's going on for other people, or
Right.
else they just don't.
Yeah.
They don't see it. It's just part of the development. So, is that okay with you as kind of an initial step
Yeah.
here?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And Emily, it sounds like you and Ted can have a conversation about how do we solve this for the neighbor.
And he might have ideas. Honestly, I mean, he's not a malicious kid. I just think he's not even thinking that your bedroom is right there and he's starting his motorcycle. He's not even thinking. And honestly, I'm trying to get him out the door and myself out the door. And, we're just on different schedules than you, so we're just not even thinking that someone's sleeping. So it's not malicious. It's just okay. Yeah.
Well, I will say that so far, I think you guys are making really good progress, and I want to thank you both for being really open with what's going on. Thank you for being open with what's going on for Ted. Thanks for being open about the job, and I think implied with working third shift is some of the stress that comes along with it. So thank you.
Yes.
What I've heard so far from the conversations you've had, and I think there are a few more that still need to come, it sounds like you have asked that Emily, if somebody complains about Rufus being in the yard, it'll go either to the cell phone or send them right over, even if the car's not there.
I will do that.
And hopefully that'll help with some of the issues around Rufus. It sounds like there's still a couple others we're going to need to touch on.
The rose bushes.
Bushes, poop in the lawn. I've heard a couple of other things, but we've got a good start. And then hopefully it's helpful for you to hear that Emily will have a conversation with Ted about the noise. And then
And I'll talk to her about Sundays too, and just ask him to, kind of see if we can discuss his friends come over on Saturdays but not Sundays, and see if that works the next time we talk and try to work that out.
Okay.
Some sort of schedule.
And so, just to be clear, in the meantime, you're not gonna be taking me to court for rose bushes?
No.
Right? Okay.
So I guess there's two main issues that I'm hearing that we can address next time. There's, in addition to the follow-ups around what's going on for Ted and any phone calls that are coming in or folks that have gone to talk to Joe. There isn't a conversation around, you were saying there's poop on the lawn and there's, you know, bottles in your driveway. It sounds like there's just a conversation around how to kind of clean up after what's been going on in a neighborhood that everybody's kind of close and there's not a lot of,
Yeah.
you know, not a lot of set boundaries. You know, you've got a small fence, it doesn't enclose everything. And that's a nice kind of culture to live in, so how to kind of keep that going. And then there's the conversation about the rose bushes. And we've said pretty clearly that you're not going to take
No, I won't. Take
Alice to court. Does it seem reasonable to talk about those next pieces and the rose bushes next time you guys come in? Is that something you'd be interested in doing?
Yeah. I can do that.
Okay. Does a week seem reasonable?
Yeah.
That'll give some time for those phone calls to go back and forth.
Yeah.
You guys to work on these communication pieces that you were talking about. It'll give time for you to have the conversation about Ted.
Yeah, talk with Ted.
The one concern I have in this week coming up is, you know, Ted is 17. It sounds like he's going through a lot, and it sounds like you're very understanding of that. But I just want to know what you guys are thinking if there is some noise and you're woken up in this next week while she's having that conversation with Ted.
We'll talk about it, I guess. I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like I feel like we have. I can approach you about it.
Okay, great.
Whereas
Please
I
do.
didn't necessarily.
And I'll try to talk to him when I get home today. Just ask him. I'll try to do it sooner than later.
Sooner than later.
Exactly.
And if something does happen, would you prefer that Alice approach you or speak to Ted directly?
Probably to me, and then I can include him in the conversation.
Okay.
Okay.
That seems
Fine.
reasonable.
Yep.
Okay, so in that case, thank you both very much for coming in. Sounds like you're going to talk to Ted. You'll take those phone calls if they come about Rufus, and I will send you both some emails with notes of what we've gone over, and we'll try to schedule for our next meeting. Hopefully we can do next weekend at some point. Would the same time work for both of you?
Yeah, this does work.
Okay, so we'll shoot for 10 o'clock again on Sunday.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
You as well.
Nice meeting you.
Thanks.